for a year. Like clockwork. It happens.
If you understood that, then this video probably isn't for you. But hey, I don't mind if you stick around. You might learn a thing or two. But if you didn't understand that, then don't worry. Come here. It's okay. I got you. Hey, shh. It's okay. I got you. Don't worry. I'll help you understand. Are you ready to make your dreams a reality?
Yeah.
2026 is your year, right, little guy?
Yeah, it is.
Who's gonna get their dream physique?
Me.
Who's gonna make $1 million?
I am.
Because it's a new year?
Me.
All right, buddy. I'll see you soon. Hey, buddy?
Hey, buddy.
Did you hear that?
Buddy?
We better watch out for Swiper the fox. Could you help us look for Swiper?
Buddy? Buddy?
Hola!
Do you know where his dreams went?
You see him? Where? I don't see him. Where is he now? Behind the tree? Where? I don't see him. Where is he now? There he is.
That's right. The trash.
Oh, man!
Still don't get it? Okay, let's try another one.
I'm going to teach you the 12 months of the year. Are you ready? Here we go. January, February, March, April.
You get it now? Because I can keep going.
In a world.
Nah, I'm just playing. But seriously, every year I do see the exact same patterns. People start the year with this massive burning desire to change their entire lives. And as quickly as that fire appears, it burns out. And that's a shame because the truth is, it usually isn't because people don't want to change. Most of the time, it's because no one ever taught them how to handle the mental side of making such a big change in their life. Like staying disciplined, building new habits, and sticking with it once that initial motivation wears off. As a coach, one of the most rewarding experiences you can have is seeing someone actually follow through on their word, not for anyone else, but for themselves. So if you're just getting started, or you keep finding yourself falling off the commitments you made to yourself, then these tips should help you approach things in a way that actually lasts and set you up for
Great success.
The first tip is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they don't actually understand what different types of training actually does. So they end up using the wrong tools for their goals. For example, there's a whole group of people that I constantly see who avoid weight training entirely because they think it will make them look bulky. And yet they want a physique that looks exactly like this. You know who you are. So instead of using weights, they rely on things like spin classes, Zumba, or even Pilates because that's what they believe, or at least what they were told, will get them the results they want. look, if you really want that fitness influencer physique, naturally, you're probably going to need to train with weights. And I'm not saying that doing Pilates on the side is a bad idea, but it's not going to replace resistance training. And even outside of aesthetics, doing weight training has so many long-term health-related benefits that many people don't consider. And I know just how hard it is to plan for the future when we're barely struggling to survive now. But we all age, and as you age, your body becomes less efficient. I'll give you an analogy. Let's say that this is your body. Now think of your body as your monthly budget. And in this scenario, when you're young, your income is high. You can afford a lot of things without thinking too much about it. Now let's imagine muscle tissue is all the extra expenses that you personally value, but you don't technically need them to live. Like your subscription services, your Starbucks coffee, your extra clothes, shoes, and so on. Now you're young, you're making bank, and you can afford all these extra luxuries. Life is good. But then, oh no, somehow, and I know we all have to have a really good imagination, but somehow your country's political leader is horrible. He ruins the economy and everything else in your country. And oh no, now it's directly affecting your income. You're making less and less as time goes on. So what do? Well, you can start by cutting off those expensive luxuries and focus more on your needs versus wants. Or you can get a second job and continue to live life the same way. And your second job in this case would be your resistance training, because to your body, muscle is not a necessity. It's a luxury. And when resources get tight, luxuries are always the first thing to go. So imagine your life without any of yours. No convenience, no extras, no entertainment. Just the bare minimum to get by. You'd survive, but would you actually enjoy it? I don't know if that made any sense, but muscle tissue is expensive to maintain for your body. And eventually, as you age, if you don't supply enough training and have somewhat decent nutrition to support that training, your body will eventually slowly start to shed it, and your bones will actually get weaker as well. Which again, might not seem like a big deal right now, until one day you wake up and suddenly things become harder. You can no longer do the things you used to enjoy. And even simple things like getting out of bed or just being able to move around freely can start to become a struggle. Being active with your kids or eventually your grandkids becomes more of a burden than a treasured memory. These are just some of the things we completely take for granted when we're young, because we live in them. I like to call this the flu effect. And I've probably repeated this exact point like 1,000 times before to my girlfriend. Oh boy! But think about the last time you had a really bad flu. You can't breathe properly. Your whole body aches. You're exhausted. And in that moment, all you can think about is one thing. The day you finally feel normal again and you can take a breath of fresh air. But a week after you recover, you stop thinking about it. You go right back to living your life without even noticing the things you were begging for just a week ago. Right now, I can take a deep breath. And most of us would never even stop to think about just how grateful we would be for this exact moment if we were in the middle of a flu. Our physical ability works the exact same way. We don't realize just how valuable it is until it slowly starts disappearing. Weight training helps preserve muscle and improve bone density, so you don't just live a longer life, but a more functional one. And I don't even want to get into the debate whether resistance training is functional or not. It is. And the thing is, you don't even need to train 6 or 7 days a week. Even just 2 or 3 well-structured workouts can do a lot for you. And even if you're older, it's never too late to start. Your training just needs to be adjusted to match what you can handle and then slowly built upon. Now, when it comes to cardio, people often treat this as a calorie burning tool. And I've been guilty of this too. You run hard, you sweat, you feel productive. Then you think, I deserve this treat. And that's where the problems start, because we almost always overestimate how much cardio actually does. The effort feels high, especially if you're out of shape, starting a new training program, or returning to an old one. But that doesn't always translate to a high calorie burn. And it's hard to blame ourselves when even the devices we rely on are often overestimating it as well. But at the end of the day, you can't outtrain a bad diet. I've tried to prove this exact point myself by eating and burning 10,000 calories in the same day at the same time. You can watch that video if you want, subtle plug, And yes, cardio does burn some calories, but it shouldn't be looked at as the entire strategy for fat loss because your body adapts. If you were overeating before, you'll still most likely compensate and still overeat. What you're trying to do is put duct tape on a huge hole to patch a leak. This ain't Frank's Red Hot Sauce, baby. You can't put that shit on everything. And as much as I love duct tape as the next man, you're never going to actually fix the problem. It's always going to be a temporary band-aid solution. So again, if fat loss is your main goal, you have to address the bigger system. And I don't mean your mom. In this case, the system is the habits you've built up over years. I always like to tell my clients that cardio should be mainly viewed as training your heart. And the calories you burn from it are just an added bonus, not the numbers you're relying on to create your deficit. Now addressing Pilates specifically, if you're new to training, it can definitely build muscle. Anything new will stimulate growth. But eventually, your body adapts and it becomes more of an endurance stimulus than a muscle building one. Now, Pilates is great for mobility, injury rehab, core strengthening, and low impact training. But again, eventually resistance training will become necessary if you want to keep progressing and make more clear visual changes. Now, there are obviously so many more forms of training methods or sports that you can do that would be beneficial to you, but it would take me forever to go through them all one by one. So the main point is this: because there are so many training methods out there, you need to look at them objectively for what they are and not what you wish they were, and definitely not what some influencer online is trying to sell you on them. That doesn't mean any of these methods are useless. Most of them have value, but they're tools, and tools only work in the right context. And that context should always start with one question: what is your actual goal? Once you know that, you can properly evaluate whether a specific training method actually moves you towards that goal. Now, this also means educating yourself from an unbiased perspective on the training methods you're considering. And if you don't want to spend time learning it yourself, then find someone who is properly educated and can guide you. Buy my coach, certified personal trainer, only $9.99. Hire me, buy my coach, personal trainer. Because if you don't, you end up doing what a lot of people do, jumping from one fitness trend to the next, trying overly complicated solutions or using the right tools in the wrong way. And that's how so many people spend years just spinning their wheels without making any real progress. Tip number 2. Now, we all joke about it and make fun of that one person who always says this year's their year. The person is usually me.
No, what are you waiting for? Do it!
But there's a reason why it's a meme. It's because motivation always fades. At the start, you're motivated. You watch all the videos, you buy the clothes, the supplements, and the food. You even sign up for a gym or a class. And for the first few weeks, you train harder than you ever have before. But if you haven't trained your body in months or years, that sudden jump in intensity is way beyond what it's prepared for. Then the soreness hits. Then the fatigue hits. Then life happens.
I was just calling to say that it had nothing to do with you. You didn't change. It was me.
Then suddenly all these new habits you were trying to implement become more of a burden, a chore. If you've ever played a team organized sport before, you already know this. When a team practices, the coach doesn't just throw everyone on the floor and say, figure it out. You always start with the basics, you build up gradually, and you give your body time to adapt. Training should be the exact same way. The best thing you can do when starting a new training routine is to actually make it as easy as possible to maintain. Then ease into it. Remove as many barriers as possible. When it comes to resistance training, if your goal is to build muscle and you're new to the gym, your body responds extremely quickly. You don't need to destroy yourself. The same thing applies with cardio. You don't start by running a marathon, you build up to it. The problem is people try to change their entire life overnight, but humans run on habits and patterns. And even that popular phrase that habits form in just 21 days isn't even close to being true. It's actually 22 days. You see how dumb that sounds? The idea that habits have this predetermined number of days to even make a long-lasting change. That's not how human behavior works. Habits form from repetition over time. And that time is different for everyone. And just because you make it a habit doesn't mean all of a sudden it's easy to maintain. You can still fall off just as quickly. Now, here are 2 concepts that I didn't make, but I like to use them when explaining habits: short-term satisfaction and delayed gratification. Short-term satisfaction gives immediate pleasure with little to no work involved, like scrolling social media, watching videos, or eating junk food. These things are easy and they make us feel good right away, but that feeling fades quickly and our brain searches for that next dopamine hit. And that's how people end up doom scrolling for hours without even realizing it. Delayed gratification works differently. You put in effort now for a reward later. Training is delayed gratification. Dieting is delayed gratification. Building discipline is what delayed gratification is all about. And practicing delayed gratification is like training your brain the same way you train your body. You're strengthening your ability to make decisions based on long-term outcomes instead of just short-term pleasure. Your brain wants that quick, easy dopamine release, but you're training it by not giving into that. If you have a kid and they want to have candy right before bed, then the easiest way to avoid conflict would be just giving it to them. But you know it's not good for them, and they may even stay up a little bit later. So instead of just giving into the easy choice now and avoiding all conflict, you take the harder path. And the results of that may not even show for a couple days, weeks, or even months. But eventually it will pay off and they will stop asking and understand why to a deeper level.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Now, if they understand they can't have candy before bed and why, and on a whim, you decide to give them candy before bed, then it may be a thing where they expect it. So those boundaries need to be reinforced once again. We have to set those same boundaries for ourselves with the choices we make. And we often don't, especially when life isn't going our way. I don't like to think of short-term satisfaction or delayed gratification in terms of good or bad. So the key is balance. Because just like muscles can be overtrained, your discipline can burn you out mentally. Sometimes we just need to turn off our minds and relax. But if that's all you do, then you stop training your brain. And if you start only choosing the easier path in other areas of your life, you'll start putting things off. The things that will benefit you long term, the things that require more work, become less desirable, harder to stay consistent with, and sometimes harder to even start. This is why when you build a habit that requires effort, it can still feel difficult even months later. It's not that the habit suddenly becomes easy. It's that you're training your brain to stop relying only on short-term rewards. So when you do decide to start another long-term habit later on, there may be just less initial resistance. This is also why you can fall off a habit that you've maintained for years surprisingly quickly. If a habit requires any meaningful amount of effort and it doesn't produce instant satisfaction, then your brain will automatically default back to the easiest path available. Same as the scenario with a child. If we reintroduce candy after months of telling them why they can't have it, then it will reset progress or at least set it back somewhat. So again, we have to make a conscious decision to push against that. But instead of trying to do a full 360 on your entire life, focus on building one habit at a time. Start small, stay consistent, and then just let the momentum build naturally. Because when you make the process easier to maintain, you're giving yourself the best chance of actually sticking with it. And that's how habits are formed. The third and final tip is one of the biggest challenges in our day is how many distractions exist in our lives. We're constantly flooded with stress, responsibilities, and noise from every direction. And because of all of that, a lot of people end up neglecting the one person they should probably be investing the most into, themselves. We push things aside. We tell ourselves we'll deal with it later. We convince ourselves we're just too busy. But the truth is, life doesn't suddenly get easier later. If anything, it usually gets harder. Having my daughter at a really young age put something into perspective for me. Time moves incredibly fast. In what feels like the blink of an eye, she went from this fragile little baby to a child with her own thoughts, personality, and dreams. And it makes you realize something important. A lot of people have this notion that someone ends up in a bad place in life because of obvious bad decisions, like drinking all the time, gambling all the time, doing things that clearly lead to negative outcomes. But what I've noticed is that there are so many people that don't struggle because of obvious bad decisions. They struggle because of stagnation. They wake up, go to work, pay all their bills, repeating the same routines every day, all while scrolling their phones, watching other people build the lives they wish they had. Even when they're doing the right things, taking care of responsibilities, providing for their family, they slowly stop investing in their own growth, mentally and physically. You see, the problem isn't always that you're making bad choices. Sometimes the problem you often overlook is that you stopped growing while the world kept moving forward. So regardless of what you think or feel, you are also getting left behind. And the reality is, the world isn't going to slow down for you. tomorrow will come, whether you're ready for it or not. So eventually, you're gonna reach a point where you have to decide. Are you gonna make your growth a priority, or are you going to let life keep passing you by? Because nothing changes if nothing changes, and no amount of excuses you tell yourself about why you can't do something will change that. No matter how tired you are, how hard life feels, or how unfair things seem, at the end of the day, when you're alone with your own thoughts, there's no one else left to lie to. Deep down, only you will know if you've made the wrong choices. You'll know in the regrets you live with, the forgotten dreams and hopes you had, the broken promises you repeated over and over again. And that is a burden you and only you will carry. Growth only happens when you decide to take control of the direction your life is going. You can't just drift through life and hope things work out. At some point, you have to become an active participant in your own story, making decisions instead of just letting life make them for you. Here's a question to think about. If death showed up at your door and told you you have exactly 1 week left to live, how would you spend that week? Would any of your bills matter? Would any of your current problems matter? Or would you start thinking about all the things you wish you had done, the people you wish you spent more time with, and all the promises you made to yourself that you never followed through on? Because deep down, we all know that this is a fact. Every single second of our future is never promised. And the real question is whether we're going to look back on our lives with regret or with peace. Peace knowing that even when things were the most difficult, we still made the choices we believed were right. And the truth is, you don't need some extreme moment or some yearly reset to change your life. You can make that decision right now, because the only second you're guaranteed to have is the one you're in.